This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so for this section, I'll explain what's new in the workstation. And the first thing I'll tell you about are the new block attribute styles that you can apply to your content blocks so that you can format them for the new site. And the first one is called floats. We've got the float 25, float 33, and float 50. And so for a small screen, it's easy to add your content and format your content because you don't have a lot of width. You basically just add your content one row at a time in a single column. However, when that same content is viewed on a full screen, you may not want to just have these single column rows going down the page. It may make more sense to float your content next to each other across the page. So you can have 25% evenly spaced 4 blocks, or 33% evenly spaced 3 blocks, or 2 50-50 blocks that take up half the screen. And you do that by applying the float block attribute. And you can add text, links, headers, pretty much any block of content you can float and use that technique for display. Then we have these splits, and we also have the split 25, 33, and 50. And whereas any block of content can be, you can apply the floats, the split is specifically for bulleted list items. So again, on the small screen, it's just going to appear in one row, one item per row, one column. But again, as you stretch to the larger screens, so that you can use up the full width of the site, you may want to opt for one of the evenly spaced split styles to apply to your bulleted list. And so here I'll just point out that you can see that at the 25 level split, using the split 25, it doesn't look as nice because some of the lines are wrapping and causing gaps in the content. So that's an indicator that a split 25 is too small. So bump it up to the next level and you can see it looks good. If I still had wrapping at this level, I try to bump it up once more, but just bumping it up that one level, that looks good to me. So that's how you use your splits on your bulleted list. Limit height is a new block feature, block attribute, and this again is another space saver. And so if you have content that takes up quite a bit of screen to have to scroll through, your site visitor may or may not be interested in all that you have there. Maybe they're interested in the content on top and the content on bottom and not this so much. So instead of making them scroll past all of the content that they don't want, you can apply the limit height, and that will limit the height of that content area to 300 pixels. That way they have the option of clicking the See More button to see more and expand it, or they can easily scroll past it with one scroll and get to the content that they want beneath it. All right, and so the next block attribute is a decorative attribute. It's the box style. It basically adds distinction to a section of content by placing a thin red top border to separate it from the surrounding content. So that's just a decorative element that you can add called box style. And then there are the stripes that I told you about. The stripe background colors in blue, gray, and dark gray. They're also used to add distinction to have your content stand out a bit, a section of content stand out from the surrounding content. And by not having it on the default white background, you can add a splash of color to highlight that section of content. All right, so those previous attributes were block style attributes. We also have two new block styles that you can add to freeform block content, specifically to images. You can add the circle image. We've always had float left and float right. That's where you can add an image to the page, and with float left, it will float to the left of the surrounding content. Float right, you can add the image to the page, add the float right style, and it will float to the right of the surrounding content. Now the circle image is a new style that you can add to a image in the freeform block. We're going to use it for elected official headshots, cabinet level or department administrative headshots on the site, but it also looks good in other areas as well. If you have a home that you're featuring for DCD, you might put a nice circle image, blue background, and just some information to highlight it. And you might want to add the other new freeform block style, a button. These buttons are good for call to action buttons. It's basically a link. So you type your text and you create your link, but then you can format it as a button. Again, they're interactive. When you mouse over, it changes colors, and just a more encouraging or interesting call to action for clicking links. So those are the two styles that are available within the freeform block editor. All right, so again, the launch date is July 6th. And so again, worst case scenario, this is how your site content looks now, but you can apply some of the, between now and July 5th at least, you can apply some of the block attributes and some of the freeform block circle images, like for the image here, you can, and then you can, this already uses like a button format, but you can add more buttons and all of the different things that I showed you to enhance the content of your page for the site.